G'day Gear Junkies, Jason here. About 6 weeks ago, I bought a new cabinet for my Mesa Solo head, which was the Joyo 212V, which is loaded with two Celestion Vintage 30s. Now for that opening track, all of the guitars were recorded through that cabinet using a Sennheiser E609 and a Sennheiser 421. Let's check out some specs. So this cab is rated at 120 watts, meaning it can take up to 120 watts RMS of power. On the back is a very confusing diagram and switch. So basically this amplifier can take 4, 16 or 8 ohms depending. You can also run it in stereo, but the way I'm running it is I'm running it in 8 ohm mode, which I have the switch set over to normal mode and I have it in the left input. If I was to put it in the right input, it would only come out of one speaker, but by putting it in the left, I get both. The front dust cover is held on by Velcro and can be easily removed by pulling on the two tabs. On the back is a panel that can be removed to turn it into a semi-open back cab. The cabinet itself is made from plywood. It is a very large cabinet. As you can see, I have my Vox AC30 sitting on top of it, and it is both deeper and longer than the Vox AC30. Although it comes with 4 feet, it also comes with 4 additional wheels that can be plugged in or removed if need be. So why was I keen to get my hands on some vintage 30s? Well, I've always wanted to get a rectifier cab to go with my Solo head, which I've had for a long time. And rectifier cabs usually come with vintage 30s. However, to buy a Mesa rectifier cab, even a 212 one, costs around 2,000 Australian dollars, which is a hell of a lot of money for a speaker cabinet. The Joyo here has the same speakers, and I got that for about $700 delivered, so it was substantially cheaper. Now, I do understand and respect that the build quality on these are going to be different. They're going to use different woods, and they're going to be held to different standards in terms of the cabinet manufacturer. But I think that the speaker actually makes more of a difference than the wood. In the late 90s and early 2000s, the combination of the Vintage 30 and the Solo head was undeniable. In fact, the Solo head was really largely developed around that particular speaker. Their heyday was about 2000 through to 2004. After that, their manufacturing techniques changed a bit, and so did the sound. They became a bit fizzier. If you've never played one before, the Solo head has a fairly dark sound. It's got a lot of bottom end and a lot of low mids. What the Vintage 30 does is it really tightens up that bottom end. It really tightly packages it. You've still got it there, but it's nice and tight and it doesn't become too flubby. And to combat the lack of sort of definition in the top end, it's a fairly bright speaker in about the 5K range. This brings out a lot of your pick attacks. So if you're playing a lot of downstrokes, for example, they're really going to stand out. The Vintage 30 is a fairly scooped sounding speaker, which means it's not going to sound particularly good for your classic rock or blues. But because it's got that tight bottom end and because it's got that sort of upper mid definition, it's become kind of the industry standard speaker for metal and hard rock. The upper mid definition of this speaker really makes it great for playing chords. So if you're a rhythm player, this is going to suit you really well. Vintage 30s sound pretty good with a clean sound as well. Now, when I first bought this amplifier, I was in a sort of funk rock band a la the Chili Peppers. And believe it or not, I used the clean channel about 70 or 80% of the time when I first got it. So I'll play you an excerpt from my band at that time. The clarity of this speaker also helps when you're using tons of effects. I know some of you are probably thinking, Jason, you're playing a classic amplifier with a really expensive guitar. Of course it's going to sound good. And you'd be right. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to unplug the solo head and plug in the orange terraced amp, which is the cheapest amp that I own. And I'm also going to switch to the cheapest guitar I own, which is my Cort M600, although it is loaded with Seymour Duncan hot rod pickups. I don't know if you noticed, but the front end of those notes was really squishing down quite hard with the orange there. So I'm going to play a riff back to back. I'm going to use the orange and then I'm going to go back to using the solo head, and you'll hear the difference between how these two different amplifiers react with the speakers. I think the orange is squishing down really hard because it's only 20 watts, which means it's sending 10 watts to each speaker. Whereas the Mesa there is 100 watts and it's sending 50 watts to each speaker. So that extra headroom gives it a bit more clarity up top and stops it from squishing down. The last thing I want to do is compare this new speaker box to the speaker box I've been using since I bought the amplifier way back in the year 2000. So I bought it second hand and it came with this generic cab that didn't have a brand on it or anything like that. It's made out of particle board, and I call this box the mystery box because I never knew what speakers were inside it. It's only in the last couple of years that I actually opened it up to have a look inside. And it's using Celestion G12T 75s. So I did a little bit of research on these speakers. Apparently they're kind of like a greenback, but they're more designed for high gain amplifiers. Yeah, so there's a fair bit of difference going on between these two speaker boxes. So the old mystery box there has a lot more sort of flubby bottom end, and it's got a lot more mid-range, but nowhere near the amount of sort of upper mid bite. This makes me think that maybe that speaker box might be better suited to a Marshall style amplifier that has less bottom end and has a bit more sort of upper mids naturally anyway. And this sort of demonstrates that having the right speaker with the right amplifier is hugely important. I'm not going to get rid of the old cab there because I do actually like it. It's a different flavor to the Vintage 30s. For example, if I'm doing a solo and I want more mid-range, I might choose to record that through this speaker cab as opposed to the Vintage 30 speaker cab. So having different speakers is actually, and having options in a recording situation is very handy. If you've got any questions about this cab, please leave those in the comments below and I'll do my best to get back to you. If you already have one of these cabs, please let me know what amplifier you're using it with and if you're satisfied with the outcome. I myself have no problem recommending this cab at the moment. With this particular amplifier, I think it sounds fantastic and the Mesa is loving it because it's getting way more attention than it used to. So if you enjoyed this video, please give it a like, and if you haven't already, please subscribe. You can support this channel by going to the Middle Aged Gear Junkie store and buying some merchandise, and you can also join the Middle Aged Gear Junkie Facebook page. Other than that, my name is Jason. Have a good day. See you later.